Take it away, Joel. Or Peter. Yeah.
No. We'll go through the program.
Okay.
Peter, how many are in attendance?
Andy.
I haven't checked.
We just have
Go on.
28 right now inside the room.
Your
Ilan
same
tayo?
pastor.
We only have 28 now inside the room.
We have 28?
28, yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's do the protocol na. Invocation, national
Yeah.
anthem.
Sige.
Hirap tumayo. Oh, hanggang tumayo, naka-short
Yeah.
pants tayo siguro.
Hi, Conrad. Classmate Conrad.
Okay,
Okay.
we can start.
Let's
We
start,
have
Ron.
32.
Yeah, we're 32 now.
32 now.
We're 32. Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear Rotarians, aunts, and guests. Welcome to our second regular online meeting for Rotary Year 2020-2021. I am Andy Manyalak, and I will be your moderator for today. You will just some house rules, housekeeping. You will always be placed in mute mode by the host. I hope you don't mind, to keep the background noise down. And then later on, after the presentation, if you have some questions, you can either type them in the chat box, or you can just raise your hands if you want to ask the questions personally. So at this point, may I now call on our president, Peter Manzano, to call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon, everyone. I now call this meeting to order.
Thank you very much, President Peter. Now, next on our agenda is the invocation to be led by Rotarian Gil Del Rio.
Fellow Rotarians, let us all remember that we are in the most holy presence of God. In the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty Father, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you that we are all gathered here today as one whose aim is to make a wonderful difference to the lives of our fellow men, the people you have entrusted upon us. May you grant us the best of health, especially during this challenging pandemic, so that we can deliver our utmost service and carry out the mission that you instilled in our hearts. Help us to be bold and courageous, to rise up in every challenge that we face, knowing that you are always beside us, to always make us triumphant all the time. May you grant us also the wisdom to lead our families, organization, and other people that we serve. Help us to unleash our full potentials so that we can become an effective leader, especially in this moment. May you also strengthen our faith in you and in ourselves so that we can carry out the mission with pure certainty, without any doubts or reservations. May you also bless abundantly our family, friends, and the people that we care and serve, and help us use all these blessings to the fullest extent possible. Most of all, may your divine providence be in each and every one of us, now and forever. In Jesus' name, we pray and thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son,
Thank you very much, Gil, for that
welcome.
very inspiring prayer. Now, for the we don't have to stand, but may I now request everyone to put their right hand on their chest and feel the message in every word as we sing the Philippine National Anthem, which will be followed by the Rotary Club of Makati hymn.
together
we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world with a Rotary Club of Makati, prepared to aid our fellow men, as true Rotarians we live to lead. We believe in service above self, and this is why we succeed. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world with the Rotary Club of Makati, giving hope to the world, the Rotary Club of Makati.
Thank you very much. Now for our recitation of the four-way test. May I request you to follow after me. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be
Will it be
beneficial?
beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you very much. And now to acknowledge our Rotarians and celebrating their birthdays and anniversaries this week. First, PDG Pepito Bengzon on July 21st.
That's today.
Yes, happy
Birthday. Go.
happy birthday of Rotarian Ferdy Ordovesa on July 25. On July 26, Sophie Concepcion. And on the 27th, past President Roland Young. For our Rotarians, happy birthday to Mimi Valerio on July 22, tomorrow, and Vicky Cantada on July 27. And 2 days from now, happy wedding anniversary to Henry and Marga Aquende. Congratulations and happy anniversary, happy birthday. Okay, now we will now proceed with the agenda. May I now call on President Peter Manzano for the President's time.
All right. Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'm happy to report to the club that our Foundation Board of Trustees, led by Chairman Bimbo Mills, has approved our club budget during the July 16 board meeting. This gives us now the go signal to start implementing our plans to our service agenda for the year, especially our humanitarian projects. Second, now that our budget is approved, we need warm bodies to work on our projects and to lead our various committees in the club. We have over 30 active committees for you to choose from, and I'm sure you can find one that will suit your interests and skill sets. We have emailed to you a list of the committees with a description of their general function and a list of their specific plans. Please go over the list and choose one or two that you may want to lead, co-lead, or simply be a part of, and sign up. Third, we expect to have more projects that we can work on together with other Rotary clubs in the district. As we all know, RI has just approved a new and seventh area of focus that is supporting the environment. With this new area of focus, I have relayed our interest to the invitation of RC Parañaque's Reef Buds project to rehabilitate our coral reefs. I believe this is a project we can all work on. Fourth, today at 4 p.m., we shall be inaugurating the emergency quarantine facility that our club has donated in Albay in partnership with the group Unity in Isolation. This is our 10th site and the first emergency quarantine facility our club has built outside Metro Manila under the leadership of IPP Bimbo Mills. So thank you and congratulations, IPP Bimbo. And lastly, please be advised that our turnover and induction seminary is moved to August 28th, a Friday. The postponement agreed upon by IPP, Bimbo, and myself was decided on in the hope that by that time, the quarantine situation will have been relaxed enough to allow more of us to be there in the flesh. We shall keep you posted on the other details regarding the event as decisions are firmed up. That's all I have today, and once again, good afternoon.
Thank you very much, President Peter. And now to the main agenda of today's meeting. Again, may I request President Peter to do the introduction of our very special guest and speaker today.
All right. Good afternoon again, fellow Rotarians, to our lovely aunts who are joining us today, and to all our guests who are joining us online. Last month, our Dean of the College of Law at the Universidad de Manila sent me an invitation to attend an online training on teaching law virtually to our students. It was during that online training that I met our speaker. His topic was teaching generations Y, the Millenials, and Generation Z. I have to say, I learned a lot and was enlightened by his presentation. So I hastened to contact our speaker through our dean so he could share to us this Philippine-centric study made on the 4 generations, our generation, the baby boomers and Generation X's, and the younger generation, the Millennials and the Generation Z's. Fortunately, our speaker was gracious enough to accept our invitation to speak before us today. His name is Jaime Noel Santos, fondly called Joel by his friends. He finished his degree in management and business law at the Ateneo de Manila University. He joined the late Anita Roddick's innovative program in the University of Bath in UK, where he earned his master's degree in responsible business practice. Joel's business and development work experience spans 30 years in marketing, business development, and entrepreneurial management in industries such as consumer products, service industry, food and beverage, and education, not only in the Philippines, but in other Southeast Asian countries as well. He started his career in 1992 at Procter & Gamble, after which he formed a venture fund with investments in the fast-moving consumer goods focused enterprises such as logistics, food distribution, advertising, and media. He also worked as a consultant on venture fundraising, social enterprise, sustainability management, and corporate turnarounds both in the Philippines and in Singapore. His last project was with Philippine Airlines, where he performed interim management work focusing on strategic projects in the commercial department such as e-commerce, routes rationalization, external affairs, and global marketing. He later joined Franklin Baker, a 116-year-old U.S. food ingredient company, as Group CEO, where he overhauled its finance and operations departments in the Philippines and in the U.S., co-leading cross-border merger and acquisition projects that jump-started the company's expansion plans. Joel is the co-founder and president of Thames International Business School, one of the few institutions in Asia which has successfully delivered 100% online education. He is married to Christina Tan and has a 15-year-old daughter named Maxine. Fellow Rotarians, Rotarians, guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker for today, an educator, an edutech entrepreneur, and an impact investment consultant, Mr. Joel Santos.
Hi.
Joel, take it away.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Peter, for this invitation. It's really an honor to speak in a very prestigious organization such as Rotary Club Makati, the pioneer, one of the pioneers in the Rotary in the Philippines. So the one I'm going to show you is actually usually when I give this report, it's about an hour, but we're gonna try to squeeze everything and in as much little time, and let's go through the question and answer. So let me share my screen. So the research and talk I'm going to share today is called Understanding Us as Filipinos, right? It's a multi-generational research. So when we've been talking about the Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X's, and Boomers, it's always been from a foreign perspective. So this is the very first research done. This research actually done by a good friend of mine. It's the last Filipino-owned research company in the top 3. It's called Philippine Survey Research Company. It's their proprietary research, but out of goodwill, he allows me to make presentations out of it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share it soft copy-wise, but at least I'm able to give presentations with it. So if I may start. Oh, what happened to that? Okay, so sorry. Okay, so who are we as Filipinos today? So the baby boomers are those born between 1946 to 1964. Generation X, that's me, 1965 to 1980. Millennials, 1981 to 1996. And Generation Z, 1997 to 2015. So there are now 4 generations in the office, government, school, and at home. And in some cases, even 5 generations. And so each generation brings in a different experience, different preferences, different expectations and beliefs. So it is really an interesting time for us because we're all 4 generations. I guess also, except for Gen Z, there are 3 generations for sure in this Rotary Club. Now, so there are commonalities. Some things never change, they're just different. And I'm gonna go through those things that are different and the things that are the same. So first, I want to talk about, there are certain things that all Filipinos will always be. And at the heart of it all is that Filipinos are very family-centric. So the family as the end all and be all. However, let us look at how each generation manifests being family-centric. So first, baby boomers. Everything is just providing for the family. My dad is a baby boomer. Actually, no, my dad is much older than baby boomer. But so for that generation, everything is just providing for the family. Dating naman my generation, Gen X, medyo nagkaroon ng balance and family, right? We also have our lives. Pasok si Gen Y, I love my family, but I need to empower myself. And finally, Gen Z, I love my family, but ako muna. Pag ayos na ako, I will go and help them out. So everybody loves their families, but they manifest this thing differently. Next, value, pagpupunyagi or success. How every Filipino believes that hard work and perseverance is needed to attain success. However, the difference is that how does each one work towards success? So for the baby boomers, basta work lang ng work. Diba? So they'll work until Sunday because nga it is for the family. Pasok naman ang Gen X, me, where you have supposedly work-life balance. Diyan po nauso yung work-life balance. And if you remember, diyan po nauso rin yung weekend warriors. I will work from Monday to Friday even though I hate my job. As long as it pays for the bills, I will do that. Hahabulin ko na lang sa weekend. So diyan na pasok na golfing over the weekend. For the women, di ba? Zumba and many other things. But pasok naman si Gen Y. Si Gen Y, my work has to be part of my passion. So, if you know, when you look at it, Gen Y, the millennials, we've been saying, sila yung patalon ng trabaho. Why is that so? We said, they don't know what they want, kaya sila paalis ng paalis, they don't stay long. But actually, it's not true. They actually know what they want. But the point is, the company or the organizations that they're working at, do not give them what they want. It doesn't add to their passion. That's why they keep on searching. Okay? That's a major mindset shift for me. Akala ko talaga dati, hindi nila alam ang gusto nila. Yung pala, alam talaga nila ang gusto nila. The problem is we, as organization and leaders of our companies, are not providing them the passion. That's why biglang, if you see in the world, dyan nasimula yung Google type of offices made for millennials, pumasok yung Apple, their offices have been changed to actually address the millennial requirements. Pasok si Gen Z, iba naman. They want to stand out. When I went back to education, I only went back to education 2 years ago, and I asked some of my HR friends, and I asked, kamusta na yung Gen Z? Kasi they're now entering the workforce. And you know what they told me? Ay nako, Gen Z. They don't ask you about salary. You know what they ask you? They ask you, how is it? How fast? And what do they need to do to get promoted? So you can see si Gen Z, di ba? He wants to get promoted fast. Kasi nga for them, attaining success has to be done fast. Third principle, ito naman. Ang Pilipino, may paninindigan. They will stand up for their own principles, expressing them, and they will always fight for it, especially if they're stepped on or disregarded. However, the principles are different, especially through the generations. What has differed among the 4 generations is that, and I will say is that, we are all principled. Ang nag-iba lang, iba-iba na yung values natin, from the baby boomers to the Gen Z. So that's why there is a big gap because, and I guess a divide, because the generations have different values already. May prinsipyo, pero ngayon, ang basis ng prinsipyo nila, iba-iba ng values. And that has been one of the reasons why we're having, as you can see in our society, a big discord. So, what can we observe? Each generation pivots, may shift. And one thing you'll notice is that every generation thinks they're better than the rest, or they're better than the last one. Okay. So, why do they think that? Well, look at it. From a technology perspective, iba-iba po ang kanilang basis. Look, for the baby boomers, technology is a tool. For example, the newspaper, I read it because I need to be able to get updated with the news. For the Gen Xs, during my time, that was the first time that the email and the internet was invented. So it was really just a tool also for us. But for the millennials and the Gen Z, they were born with a cell phone attached to their body. Parang umbilical cord na nila. So they're called digital natives. They entered this world with already internet, with social media. They entered this world with IoT. So in other words, technology is a way of life. It's not just a tool. On communications, my dad can never have a meeting unless it's face-to-face. He really had a hard time having Zoom meetings now because our way of communication for the baby boomers has to be face-to-face. Hindi nga pwedeng telepono, kailangan face-to-face. The more sensitive it is, the more face-to-face. But as you go to the younger generations, they're moving to more online. So in this generation, the millennials started it. You can actually, in the dating scene, you can date somebody online, get engaged online, and the final time they will actually meet each other is wedding day na. So imagine the whole dating ceremony to engagement is done online. Nagkita na lang sila sa wedding day. That will never happen to the baby boomers or even to me as Gen X. So you can see that the dynamics of communication very much seen the difference in the offline and the online level from the baby boomers to the Gen Z. Now, when we talk about face-to-face interactions, kaya nga email yung uso during our time because it's one-to-one. Ngayon, hindi na siya one-to-one. It's about Viber groups. It's about chat groups. It's always about groups. So the social media connection moved from the one-on-one to actually groups. That's why it is a we, from I to we. Next, social orientation. For us, I'm from Ateneo, so very clear to me yung man for others. Diba? What can we do for the community? Diba? Natatandaan niyo when we go to mga family reunions, we always have to go. And me, because I am Gen X, obligated because my parents brought me there. Nako now, if I bring my daughter to a family reunion, the first thing she's going to ask, why will I go there when I don't know anybody there? Why? Because they're more me-centric. For them, hindi lang siya basta pakisama. You know, what's in it also for me. So as you can see there, from man for others to the me-centric. Family bonding. I remember the time when everybody wanted to build compounds para lahat ng family members nila will always stay together. Di ba? Ang daming family compounds. But from the millennials to the Gen Z, the minute they can earn and leave, alis na sila. And that's when all of these condominiums started building the shoebox condos. It's really for the millennials na gusto lang makaalis. And they will go to a small unit as long as they can start affording it. Social esteem. We were, the baby boomers and Gen and the millennials, we were told, just keep on planting, tutubo rin yan. So delayed gratification. Diba? Plant and plant, the harvest will come. But in the world of the millennials and the Gen Z, lahat instant. I remember during my time, the only instant was instant coffee. Diba? But here, everything's instant. They want to order anything, they can buy it online. They want to get any information, they just Google it, lalabas na. They don't have to spend hours in the library. So their patience is very short. You know, and this whole instant gratification has been seen in instant success, instant riches, instant wealth. You know, so that has been the issue for most of the older generation, the younger generation, because nagmamadali lagi ang younger generation. On self-control, I remember during our time, we were so conservative. Actually, we wouldn't even change clothes. As long as wala pang butas yan, pwede pang gamitin, gawin na. But fast fashion, which means your fashion changes every 6 months, started with the millennials. H&M, Zara, Mango, yan po yung nauna sa mga fast fashion. It's because every 6 months, things have to change. Because they're very indulgent, and of course, they want something new all the time. Because nga, they also want to stand out. So, as you can see, restraint to indulgence. Social roles, just me, multi-me. As parents, don't you ever get this from our kids? You don't understand me, ma. There's just so much of me you don't understand. Ano yung so much of me? Yan po yung multi-me. Unlike our time, what you see is what you get. Ngayon, they have what you call a complex personality. Diba? They are different with their friends. They're different with their classmates. They're different with their colleagues. They're different with their relatives. So, iba-iba. Now, one of my last few slides about self-awareness. The thing about, you know, we don't really care much about what people think as older generations. Pero as they go younger, they are so concerned of what others think of them. The word FOMO, fear of missing out, was created for the millennials and Gen Z. And that's why they're so self-conscious. You know, they may appear so confident outside. Diba? They want to stand out. I want to be independent. But they're actually self-conscious. And never has there been, in our history, so many suicides and mental health issues. Mainly because of this self-consciousness that the millennials and the Gen Z have been experiencing. So, just to summarize, if you look at the 4 generations, see, baby boomer, man for others, diba? Gen X, us, open-minded, pragmatic, independent. Pasok naman tayo sa technologically savvy millennials and Gen Z. They're fun-loving, they're confident, you know, they want instant gratification, and they're multitaskers. If you remember, my daughter can watch Netflix, do her homework, text her friends, and at the same time eat. All doing it all at the same time. And the fact is, she's able to do it. Kaya nga sila tech-savvy and multitaskers. So this is a snapshot of what we are. Now, I want to just share a little bit. I want to share a little bit about from a branding perspective and marketing. Diba? So we're all here as, no matter what you do, you have to sell out the market. So if you're if anything, you're marketing, selling something, this is the shift that's happening. From brand storytelling to customer narrative. In other words, let the customer be the one to tell their story. Dati, tayo nagbibigay lagi ng story. Brand consistency to brand surprise. They want to see, hey, ano ba yan? Give me something delightful. Hindi ko ini-expect. From brand truths to human moments, di ba? So if you're from a branding perspective, the younger generation are looking for something more fun, more touch, more play, more connection, and more curiosity. So again, a few snapshots. From restraint to indulgence, from delayed to instant, from abstract to concrete. Kailangan makita nila yung proof of what you're giving them. From brand value to brand experience, done for you to do it yourself. DIY. Kaya po malalakas yung mga Ace Hardware and all of those MCD po kasi nga nauso na yung do it yourself, and the Millenials did it. Then the reception and collaboration. So I'd like to show you how this type of research has been applied to marketing. And maybe later you can see. So this was 2018, but it's one of the best commercials because it really encapsulates the 4 generations. Okay.
Anak, may regalo ako sa'yo. Sukat mo.
Anywhere you go, andyan lagi si Salamat po.
Galing, no? You can see this won many awards. You can see as a marketing thing, it captured all of the elements of the Filipino. Number one, family-centric. Diba? Values. Diba? And then hard work kasi you can see the dad looks like an OFW. Kita mo na yung ano eh, yung dating. And then right away you saw that there were snippets of the millennials, you know, having their DIY for their jean jackets, diba? They want it personalized because they want to stand out and they want it really for their own. So very strong, very powerful. It hit all generations with this one. So as you can see, this is a Filipino-centric research. That's why from a marketing perspective, you address it by hitting the values that you've seen. Now, please allow me naman to show me as a school. So as I said, I use this research to actually relaunch our school because we're a 20-year-old school. And then I said, how should I change it? So this is how I applied this naman when I relaunched my school in 2018 in terms of product development. So there were 3 things that after learning the research, I have to change our methodology, we have to change our environment, and then we have to put tech. So yeah. So from Thames, we are an international college. We're 20 years old. I had to change our methodology to make it progressive and experiential. So these are classes. They're not in the traditional classroom. And we even allow our students to work with their lecturers to customize the learning that they will have, including co-creation and cool classes. So you can already see, I'm trying to address the millennial and the Gen Z type where we make them part of the class in terms of creation. this is my exam. It's theatrical. It's not the traditional just written exams, because they want a different way of expressing themselves. And I'll give you something that's for parents. No, my students told me they hated me after this exam. Why? Because they said they never worked so hard, but they've never had so much fun. So in other words, it works. We always travel because they always like to travel. They don't like to be stuck in a classroom. I had to change how our campus looked. I followed the Google example and made our campus look like Google, because if that's the environment that they want, I had to renovate. So I even put swings. Why did I put swings inside the atrium? Because the Gen Z cannot stop moving. You have to give them something to sit. Nagalaw sila ng galaw. Diba? They can't stand. They can't stay put. So I had to do it that way. Of course, the third thing I had to do in Thames was that we had to make it tech-enabled. So we started online learning since 2 years ago. I trained my teachers to be able to become online teachers, kasi the students want a combination of tech and traditional. And I had to make the content more entertaining. Why? Because they learn everything from YouTube. Pag hindi po parang YouTube ang pag-conduct ng classes, they will get bored easily. So this is our class. That's our learning management system. As you can see, we combine both the synchronous and asynchronous. This is my student giving a testimonial. You know, during the pandemic, we had to move to 100% online. We're one of the few who succeeded. And it's not because magaling po kami, it's just because we've been doing it for 2 years. And what we have done that's different is that we humanize technology. As our student said, Thames did a good job of humanizing technology. You cannot just do pure tech with the younger generation. The human heart has to be part of it. And again, that is based on research. So just to end, you know, as Filipinos, diba? Some things still bind us together, and that's family, perseverance, and principles. And so even though there are differences in the 4 generations, take a look at the 3, family, perseverance, and principles. Para pag meron mang hindi tayo nagkakasunduan, balikan po natin itong 3, and I'm sure we're gonna find the commonness, diba? What binds us together, and we will always find the solution to our problems if we look at these 3 that binds us. So thank you very much. If any partnerships or any projects you can do together, I also have other research that I'm always willing to share. We have a research on online learning effectiveness that we're now sharing to all different schools, so that parents are available, so that parents know how to prepare for it. Just email me or call me, that's my number. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity to present. And I tried to make it fast, sorry, but I think it'd be fun to have a lively discussion after this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Joel Santos, for that very informative talk. And
Sorry po, mabilis.
yes, we really learned a lot. I mean, for myself, I also learned a lot. Now, Mr. Santos has graciously accepted to answer some of the questions. Since we're good with our time, we're only at 2:41. No? He has graciously accepted to answer some of your questions, maybe in the chat box, or if you can just raise your hand and ask him personally. So to start with, I think we have architect June Palafox raising his hands for his question.
Yeah. Thank you, Joel. Nice presentation. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah. With this quarantine working from home arrangement where the baby boomers 60 and above and the 21 and below, so we have 22 years old to 59 years old in the business, running businesses now. What will the effect both on the baby boomers and those who will be working at home and the marketplace? Which is what's happening now, and even 55 years old now are being asked to retire. What may be happening to our business, marketplace, and all those who are required to work and those who are not required to get out from the home?
Okay. Let me first give for all of us parents here. this quarantine is worse. I want to talk about first what we have to watch out for. This quarantine is worse for Gen Z. Why?
Gen Z.
Gen Z, the ones 22 and below, they are the most affected with this one because they want control. So the fact that they're put in a box and they can't leave is really hard for them. So first, as parents, let's take care of those in the Gen Z side because they're really having a hard time going through this. Even though they don't say it, you put them in the box. That is the worst for a Gen Z. Number two, Gen Z is also the most connected in the world. There are other parts of the research that said this is long, diba? But they are the world citizens. They feel for what is happening in the US, from the race issues to the COVID issues. They feel for these things. And so the effect of this global pandemic and all of the issues of the world is really malakas ang dating sa ating mga Gen Z. They really feel it inside their heart. So imagine that they feel the worst situation in the world and at the same time they are locked up. So that is actually something I'd like to share with you. Na if you do have Gen Z kids, pamangkins or apos, they need support now, particularly to manage their wellness. Now, the most resilient, as always, are the baby boomers and the Gen Z. Why? I mean, inabot ko pa ako, I'm 50, no? Inabot ko pa yung black and white. So inabot ko pa yung dial tone and fighting with the party line, you know? So in other words, I passed through so many technological changes. So when we go through so much crisis, para bang, crisis na naman, di ba? Di ba, June? Lahat tayo dumaan dito. So we are resilient. We eat crisis for breakfast for Filipinos. Iba-iba lang yung crisis. But as the younger generation goes, their ability to be resilient to crisis is less. And I have to fault my generation. Sa generation ko po, Gen X, nagsimula yung mga helicopter and tiger moms na we started controlling the lives of our kids that they could. Kaya yung mga millennials hirap na hirap because of my generation na kinontrol nila masyado yung mga bata, that they're not resilient. So they're the ones having a tough time. However, then again, they are tech-enabled. So for as much as the older generation is resilient to changes, hindi naman tayo masyadong sanay sa tech. While the millennials and the Gen Z are still communicating with their friends using what they're always used to, social media. Sanay na naman silang hindi sila nakikita face-to-face. But their stress level is not the fact they're not seeing their friends face to face, but it's the fact that there's problems in the world and they're locked up. So in the end, each one will have to find their rhythm. But one thing I realized, when you combine everybody in the house, because you're stuck together, I had my parents move to me. It was a really good experience for my parents and my daughter to actually interact from grandchild to grandparents, and they started sharing how they were the same and different, and that helped alleviate this. Kasi nga family. So during this time, let's keep the family connected to each other, kasi that is the main support system of the Philippines, and that will help us get through. I hope that helped answer the question.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Do you have any other questions? Okay, President Peter.
All right. Joel, thank you again for your sharing. No, with this me mentality and the standout mentality of the millennials and the Gen Zs, how do the millennials look at their role in the society? How do they see themselves as part of the society?
You know, President Peter, they have never been really confronted with issues that are shaking them up. I think the issues that are happening now are shaking them up. And so it would be really interesting to see how they will be reacting to these issues. One thing for sure, they feel it. because nga they are the connected generation. What we will have to see is what action they will do to address the feelings that they have inside. Hindi pa ho natin nakikita. Pero definitely they're affected. Hindi pa ho, nung panahon natin, we go to the streets, di ba? Sila hindi pa ho natin nakikita how it is. Although I do have to say, they address it the way Filipinos do. They make memes. Nakita niyo na po yung mga maraming memes. They make fun of everything using memes. Yan, that's one expression ng millennial, memes. So they make a joke out of everything. Beyond that, yan pa lang ang nakikita natin, memes.
Follow-up question, Joel. How do you organize them to be part of cause-oriented groups? Like, for example, Rotary or any other NGO for that matter.
Running a school. One of my challenges when I came back, how do I now engage Gen Z? Okay. How do we now engage Gen Z for things beyond I just saw a note from Erica. Erica's part of our postgrad program. Hi, Erica. So millennials, actually, yung millennials were very much involved with Gawad Kalinga, she said. So the millennials started this thing of getting involved there. The millennials got involved first because they felt they are the ones who have to fix the problem that their grandparents and parents created. So the millennials felt that I have to fix the shit that my parents and my grandparents did to the world. They were the ones who started environmentalism. That was the environment. Buwan yung millennials. Okay? So if you want to engage millennials, sila sa environment, tsaka social act. Yung Gen Z, their issues is still the environment, pero nadagdag sa kanila, ang malaki is this thing about cyber issues, privacy. Malaking issue yan sa Gen Z. Issues about LGBT. Malakas po yan sa Gen Z. So we can engage the younger generation if we address the issue that is closest to their hearts. So millennials, environment. Gen Z, social issues. So ganyan. Diyan po natin, doon natin i-tackle whichever is their current flavor.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll have a question from retired Ramon Garcia, and then next one will be Architect June Palafox.
Hey, Idol. How are you, Joel?
I don't want a question from Raymond. I've known him since college. Nakakatakot yun.
Di naman. Pare, I saw the generalities of the generations, and while social media has cut across all swaths, how are you now that you are released from your physical boundaries of your campus, going to scale your enrollment nationwide, or is that not a plan? And how do you, I guess, address the Jollibee generation? What does that mean? While the rest of the world is really maybe a generality of the generations, Philippines seem to have their own character and mindset. So how do you intend to scale and market? But you've done a great job, buddy.
Thanks, Raymond. We did the research recently on
Let me call Albert to stop calling.
Since we were one of the first to go online learning, we decided to do a research where we had 9 schools from all over the country go through our online learning course for 2 weeks, and they've never had online education in their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is what we have found out. Number one, the reason they like online learning now is that it makes them feel safe. Unfortunately, as I said, Gen Z is so affected by the situation. They're happy to take. They're scared of what's out there. Also, based on research, even though they like online learning, 75% pa rin prefer to have a face-to-face. So
yes.
If your online will not work in Asia, It might work in the US, but a pure online will not work in Asia. As my research says, 75% still want to go face-to-face. So where we're looking at is a combination of tech, face-to-face. So it's called blended learning, where it's online and face-to-face. Now, what percentage that will be? For us in Thames, what works for us is 40% online and 60% face-to-face. But for each school, they'll have their own balance. So this online learning for now, the students accept it because at least they feel safe, but they want to go back to class as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from Architect Palafox, and then Kil Del Rio will be next.
So I can just have a follow-up question, a follow-up answer to what Raymond said. Again, to us parents here, please, as your kids or your grandchildren are going to online education, my research also says that they find the whole thing very stressful. Being locked up in the house and then going through a new online environment, they find it very stressful. So again, let's support our kids at home. When classes start in August, and I guess I don't say this because I'm an expert. I'm just saying I just had 2 years head start, and it's going to be tough for them. So let's really support our kids and our grandkids as they go through online education. It's going to be stressful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Andy.
Yes, sir.
George.
Yes, sir.
May I ask
sir.
a question?
Okay, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a very nice presentation, Joel. But what I'd like to ask is that you're talking about a small slice of our society. I mean, you're talking more like the top echelon, economic echelon of our society. Does this in general apply across the broad spectrum of our citizens?
Yes. This study was done from D all the way to, from class D to A. So it was from class D to A. So the base was about 5,000 respondents from class D to A. So except that when I used the research for myself, I applied it to my market. But this is really all segments.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, under this present situation, this dire situation, majority of our citizens really are hard up. And again, the unemployment rate in our country, majority are the young. Yung mga 24 and below. Walang trabaho, walang ano. And I'm just wondering, I mean, like things like this, and how do we, what can the government do? We're talking about government stimulus program, having some challenges. No? The ayuda would be, I don't think they can continue. And this is where the concern of dissension from the young, wherein it might lead to, as a matter of fact, at present, the peace and order situation has seemingly deteriorated. Okay? So it's a concern, and I would like to, get your views as far as something that the government, I don't know whether it's Department of Social Welfare or whatnot, that how can they instill in the young, who are downtrodden and dissatisfied, not to go to the other extreme. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thanks, George. That's a good. I can only share my experience. Of course, we're both in Go Negosyo, and I'm doing. We're the learning partner of Thames is the learning partner of DTI for e-commerce.
Okay.
So what we have done for the youth in particular is to show them that they can. Again, this is experience wise. The Gen Z and the millennials are the ones who started the Facebook entrepreneurs, as you know it. Sila yung nagbebenta ng kung ano-ano sa Facebook.
Yes, yes.
So sanay sila na may sideline. The reason is they're forced to work somewhere which is not their passion. So what they will do their passion and then sell the services. So you'll have somebody who's, for example, working in a company. Pero then he would be selling outside of work cakes, di ba? Because yun yung passion niya. Or he would be doing, he would be selling his music or his artwork. So on the gig, what we are seeing with at least the millennials and the Gen Z, if they cannot find the work that is also their passion, they will work na lang to make ends meet. For example, they're in a call center, and then they will try to do their passion and sell it as a service, whether it's online or what. That's why maraming sideline yung mga millennial tsaka Gen Z in Facebook, in Lazada, and all of those things. That's why I was a bit worried when the government. So what the Gen Z is now doing is mag-sideline na lang, di ba? Everybody now, I'm sure all of us are in our village alone. Siguro kalahati dyan ngayon may binibentang pagkain. So para bang ano ba tayo, customer o tayo yung nagbebenta, di ba? So each one is like that. So I buy from you because I'm selling some. Everybody now is selling something. What George, because the government listens to you. You know what I think is dangerous is trying to tell right away, lahat kayo nag-e-commerce, kailangan mag-register kayo, ita-tax ko na kayo.
Right.
That one was that really hit a lot of them so much, and that shows para bang the government ay listening to the ground, di ba? So I think they should actually, from a government perspective, support all of these sidelines. Buti nga nagsa-sideline yung mga bata kaysa humihingi ng pera sa gobyerno.
I agree.
So, tulungan mo na lang sila mag-sideline kaysa pahirapan mo mag-sideline. Buti nga hindi nangihingi. So that if I could give one example, that's one. It affected everybody. So maybe they could help the younger set find a way to survive during their sideline. So yun lang. I don't have all the answers, but at least that's one that I saw.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. It's getting very exciting and we're getting a lot of questions. Now to break those questions coming from our generation, the baby boomers, let's hear a question from, we have a question from a millennial. Just to break the sequence on. Here's Erica Nang Wong. She says, she's a millennial. Okay, she's a millennial from Rotary Paseo. I have a question for Gen X and baby boomers. What is your awareness level on mental health issues? How do you perceive mental health of either your children or staff? I've encountered baby boomers and Gen X that are saying, arte lang yan. And I'd like to understand where this is also coming from. So,
that's a very good question. That's for everybody to answer, no? That's pretty good. Okay. I won't answer. It'd be nice to hear from the others.
Okay, let's hear from Retired Kyo Del Rio.
Hi, sir. Hello. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is this, as a millennial, how will we be able to work effectively with the older generation, such as the Gen X and the baby boomer, so that despite the technological differences, different beliefs, and life experiences, how can we work effectively with them?
Okay, let's address, I'll go back to that, but I also want to address Erica's question, because Erica's question is pretty good. Are we, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, do we recognize the mental health issue? And maybe Andy, or President Peter, or anybody. Kasi she's asking a very a real question. Totoo yan we always think arte lang nila, hindi lang sila sanay sa hirap. Diba? Yan ang sinasabi natin, diba? So maybe the others can address that. This is a sticky point among baby boomers and Gen X at millennials. We think maarte lang sila, which is Michael, I hope that also in a way goes
course.
to you. Parang,
Yes.
diba?
Yeah. On my part, no, the way I look at it, the best way for me to address that is to keep on talking to our children. No? We have to be connected to them all the time. You know, listening to them, that helps a lot also. You know, well, as you said, no, during our time, we can handle anything, no, but to them, we also know the limitation of their exposure to other people, to their exposure to the difficulties of life. Actually, our children are very much pampered, no. Hindi naman sila yung generation na sumakay sa estribo, hindi naman sila yung generation na naglakad papunta sa eskwelahan. So their acquaintance or their relationship with other individuals is very limited to those who they met in their school. So limited lang talaga. So for me, it's a real issue, no, that mental health awareness is very much an issue. That's why for me, the way to deal with it is to keep on talking to them, knowing the limitation of their exposures to all these things. And then, of course, we have to adjust to them, and then let them also understand that, you know, there are things that you may not be aware of, that other people are experiencing, that you have also to adjust to that. So in a way, it's like let them learn from you, and then we also learn from there. That way, they could adjust also their own perception of the world and how to handle different situations. So that's my take on that.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah,
Is
go
it
ahead.
okay? Can I comment on that?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Erica, okay. Hi, Joel, by the way.
Hey, Reggie. Long time.
Definitely, the issue of mental health is a very big issue. I'm a member of the faculty of Ateneo. And in the last few years, we have had a lot of reminders and circulars and programs to prepare us to deal with students who have been going through a lot of mental health issues. It's not a failing on the part of that generation that there is a perceived increase in mental health incidences. It is more a recognition of the fact that we are now more aware of mental health, and that it is something that cannot be set aside. Kasi in our generation, tama ka no? Sinasabi na arte lang or hindi importante yan. It's or magpakalalaki ka. Mga tipong ganyan, no? Or tibayan mo lang ang puso mo, okay na yan. It doesn't work anymore. Because the world is as complicated as it is. I think the fact that there is so much connectivity with the rest of the world, where we are exposed to different cultures, different ideas, different learnings and technologies, really makes it difficult for a lot of our youth. And definitely that's something that needs to be addressed as well. So I think it's a challenge on the part of the Gen Xers and the baby boomers to take mental health more seriously. It is something that is really a cause for concern, especially in this generation. So I just wanted to say that. Thanks, guys.
Andy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, may I think Reggie said it well, no? I think nowadays the peer pressure is also an issue, okay? And also a lot of maybe the early boomers have certain expectations, from their children, because you're not talking about, this mental issue just on the 20s or 30s, no? Even people like 40 years old, a lot of them now are, pressure from work, pressure from competition, pressure of not being successful, no, or looked up. And it boils down to yes, information is readily available, but at the same time, it can be, I mean, people sometimes know too much. It becomes a pressure on them. That why other people are successful, I am not. Okay? So that's something that's, we used to say that during our time, this was difficult. You know? But now I realize that, you know, the generation behind us is even more challenging. Before, we just somehow go through high school, college, and we can come out, you know, looking for a job that pays reasonably. But now it's so competitive that young people not only getting a job, but even startup business is quite challenging. So those really adds up to this mental issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We
Can
have
I,
a
can I have a comment? Andy?
Okay, okay.
I'm Bimbo Mills.
Yes.
Okay. No, the thought that came to me is that I guess during the baby boomer times and the X group, life was more simple, no? And following Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when we solved our job and our food, clothing, and shelter, we were done. Okay. Now the kids are trying to solve the self-actualization type targets, and that's much more difficult to solve, I think. No? And that is why maybe simplistically we were able to be happier more easily, while the kids now are trying to find, as you were saying, their passion and giving their passion a right venue for expression, no? And that's frustrating, no? Because that's not easy. That's harder to attain because these are more, in a sense, more abstract than our being able to land a job and get your at least minimum wage and eat and have a bicycle and go to work, or a simple motorcycle and so on. But now the demands on people are so complex. No? So maybe that's one of the sources of these mental problems that come up.
Okay.
Anyway, just my comments.
Very interesting perspectives. Now let's hear from
Hi.
another aspect from the cultural context. A question with cultural context from Mr. Rick Gendap. Rick Gendap.
Hi.
Joel,
Any question?
Joel, thank you for that presentation because I work in the design business and I work with 90% millennials and Gen Z people. And you have identified a lot of points where we already know because 5 years ago we did a branding for empowerment platform for millennials and Gen Z, and most of the findings that we did, you articulated very well in your presentation. So thank you very much. One thing that I have personally learned, which I would like to ask, and also this is connecting to the question of Kiel earlier, is the idea of resilience, because we think that millennials or boomers or millennials or Xers like us are more resilient, and we found out that a lot of millennials are Gen Z, which you have identified in your presentation, would rather go on their own than work with organizations whose values they do not believe in or do not share. Now, and it took us a while to wrap our heads around that because, like what I mentioned, I'm working with these young people. And I would like to get your perspective about this because you are in the educational sector, which is we teach these kids to excel, and the expectations are so high, but nobody is really teaching them how to fail because the expectation of excellence is there, but dealing with failures is not so much taught in any of the academies or even in our homes because we have to match that kind of very, very high expectations from the familial unit to the societal to even the educational standpoint. So in Thames, what do you do to address this kind? How do you teach resilience? Because in our little practice, the 24 kids in the office, the first lessons that they have to learn is how to fail well. When we're dealing with difficult clients, we really cheer them on, especially, we're not encouraging to fail for no reason at all, but how to deal and be gracious about failure and how do you cope with that, because that also helps them alleviate that kind of mental pressure, that the mental health issues that they are trying to overcome whenever they are facing difficult challenges at work.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. That's a very good question. I'm gonna share something that's my personal opinion, and I maybe you won't agree with me. It's very hard to teach resilience for our social. For everybody in this Zoom call, yeah, the fact that you're here, we're part of a certain social class. It's very hard to teach resilience in our social class in the Philippines because most of our kids live in a bubble. We've given them everything. I mean, very few countries have a maid, a driver, a cook, and everything that we have. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So what we have tried to do in the school is that I said it's very hard to teach failing, resilience, independence while you're in the Philippines. That's why our program is actually an international program where they do 2 years in the Philippines and then they finish abroad for a year. Because you know the story, ang Pilipino, pag nasa Pilipinas, he is what he is. But alam mo yung same waiter from the Philippines to Singapore, he makes it much better, di ba? Kasi yung environment in Singapore induces, for me, the environment in Singapore kind of helps bring out the best in the Filipino. While our environment here, unfortunately, brings out, you know, whatever it is. So when you put the Filipino outside, when we send our kids abroad for a year, and we've been doing that for 20 years, you really see the change. So for me, going outside of the country really unspoils the spoiled Filipino. Ang middle class natin may driver. You know, where else do you see a country middle class may driver, right? So iba talaga. So that's one. And if you look at the current World Economic Forum, the new skills needed to learn is actually one of the biggest one is EQ. So EQ is not taught in schools. We're starting to teach that now. That has to really be taught because putting yourself in the other person's shoes really helps. You know, many things, has many benefits. So EQ is something that has to be taught in our schools. We just started doing that. And I totally agree with you, Rick. There's no course on how to pass through failure, and that's why we're getting a lot of these mental health issues. That's actually something that I hope Senator Miggs already passed this law na magkaroon na uri ng good health and moral values, diba? So I don't know what's inside that, but I think that should be part of that content in the schools.
Okay, thank
you.
Andy, may I ask?
Okay, sir.
Joe Leandro.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just have two questions and an observation. Number one, I was wondering, I did not see any slide about, first, I belong to the generation which is way below the first generation, way ahead. So, kasi your first generation stopped at 70. So we existed before that. So we can consider that we are the pre-fourth generation people. Okay. Anyway, I noticed in the chart that you never came across about social awareness or human relations in these 4 generations, which today, when it comes to the Generation Z, we can see the big difference between those generations. So that today, in Generation Z, they have lost the graciousness, the personal relationships, the human touch. And they're so impersonal, even their language has changed, so that they become lonely in itself, because there is no human touch. They communicate by internet, blah, 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 so that the human touch has disappeared, and it weakens their ability to stand by themselves, because companionship is gone. It's only by internet and so forth. So on. That's my question. The next one is this. Is it possible that because of this lockdown, that there can be a blended generation that will come up? Because now these 4 generations are sitting together in their homes because of the lockdown. There's a lot of blending going on now, actual and very active blending. It's no longer the kind of the father just talking and then they leave. Now they are all at home, you got to talk. Is it possible that there will be a blended generation that will come out, which will be much better than the Generation C?
Thank you. Can I answer the last one first about the blending? If there's anything that has happened in the lockdown, is that it has forced the generations in the house to start talking. Kasi before we were so busy. So I was sharing, I feel really blessed that my parents stayed in our house for 2 months. Who's part of your generation. And they were able to interact with my daughter. So there was really blending in that regard. So what my daughter taught my grandparents was how to use technology. So hindi na natakot yung grandparents nila, the lolo and lola, how to use technology. So pagkalabas nun, natakot nga kami pagkalabas nun, my mom started shopping eh. Yung what she did physically in shopping, now she's doing online, di ba? So you know, the blending has happened, and it was really I think it was really good for that blending. It was really the fact that we were stuck together was a chance to really start communicating. So yes, I hope that happens, that there's a blending that will happen with the lockdown, particularly because we're stuck, and it's a chance to understand each other more. So I really hope that can happen to more. On the first question about the social touch, actually the companionship of Gen Z and the millennials is there, except that it is not expressed the same way our generations did. For us, companionship means physically being with each other. For them, companionship means being connected socially. So while they're studying, for example, you will see on the sidebar all of the messages of the friends, you know, while they're studying. So nagkukwentuhan sila, then my daughter is studying. When I remember when I was studying alone. Or kuminsan, I'm in the library with others, but when I'm at the house, I'm alone. Sila, while they're in the house, they're studying, and in the sidebar, they're getting all of their text messages, Viber or WhatsApp, from their friends, and they would answer. So there is companionship, but it's just expressed differently, particularly virtual. Now, the issue of loneliness really comes not from the companionship, but a big part on this feeling of missing out, yung FOMO. Because nga of social media, parang napaparamdam nila what they do not have. So biglang they all feel na, kaya nga yung self-consciousness and self-awareness, they have self-consciousness and self-awareness that's very high, but they have lower self-esteem than the older generation. So when you have all of these other friends showing, I traveled here, I ate here, di ba? Our family bought this. Ang lakas ng impact sa sa younger generation na nakikita nila masyado yung divide. And that's where I think it's really dangerous na yung this FOMO, this fear of missing out. And that's where the mental health issues comes because of this a feeling of not having enough. And that's where social media is not good.
Okay. Now, in relation to that, Jaime Luis Gavino would like to ask about the communication between the different generations. Mr. Jaime, would you like to?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll go back to Kiel's, because Kiel answered that. And so at least we're back to that. Was it? Yeah, Kiel was the one who asked that, no? And then we weren't able to. You know what? This is what again from experience. There's things in the research, but you know, millennials and Gen Z are very cynical. So because they grew up in a time that they don't know which news to trust. Yung fake news na uso lang sa millennials tsaka Gen Z. So they're very cynical. They don't accept things as they are. In other words, kaya nga sa advertisement, mahirap bulahin ng millennials tsaka Gen Z. That's why authenticity of the brand is so important to them. So in that regard, if there is anything that would help in the communication between the generations, it is actually walking the talk. You know, what we say should be what we do, and millennials and Gen Z will appreciate that and respect us, because they're very cynical nga eh. And the way to fight cynicism is to be authentic. So if we walk the talk, then I think we as the older generation managing younger people, the millennials and the Gen Z, let's be authentic. And we will capture their hearts and their minds that way. Unfortunately, in our government now, what they say and what they do is the problem. That's why the kids are getting more cynical. And I'm saying that for most things. So again, please remember they're a cynical generation because it was during their time that fake news happened. So they don't believe everything that is said. So the only way to counter that is to really be authentic and genuine. And I think that will ease communication.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have one last question, and then we will be requesting everyone to turn on their video, so we will have our photo op for this business meeting.
Hello
Yes.
po, Sir Joel. I have a question po kasi. As a member of Gen Z, I grew up around with my being introduced to family business. I got along well with, personally, I got along with yung business clients ni dad and whatnot. So I grew up in that environment. However, now that I am working, a problem I face a lot is palagi akong sinasabihan ng mga managers ko or the higher ups na you're so young, what do you know, ganito ganyan. However, I've had a lot of trainings, I've had experience in this sort of field. So it's a little frustrating na parang how do I express effectively to my managers or my higher ups na, sir, you know, I'm not incompetent, diba? My ideas seem to work when I do them myself, but like at the same time I don't want to be disrespectful because at the same time I understand these people are much older, they've done a lot more than I have. But my question is to summarize, like how do I effectively get my idea across effectively without losing being respectful, sir?
How do I call you?
Luis, sir, Luis.
You know, I'll tell you a secret. The older generation is insecure about your generation. No, it's true. A lot of us are insecure because number one, you're digital natives, you're tech savvy, you know so many things we don't know. And that's why the older generation, and I say this, we test you a lot eh. Parang you have to earn your keep. You know, but and it's just really because of that. Eh. You guys have you know so much more than we have. You actually process things faster than us. As I said, you can have information, 3 things happening in front of you, and you'll be able to process it. Kami, one at a time, eh, because you're wired like that. So Luis, I think if there's anything, take a look at, try to understand us, kasi kami nga yung na-insecure sa inyo na look at what BPI did. They said everybody above 50, you're given, you can retire now if you want to. So don't you think that really makes us insecure? They want us out of corporations. I'm 50. So if I was in BPI, I would have gotten that envelope already. So the older generation does feel that you're out here not to replace us. But the point I'd like to say, actually, it is really an opportunity to have 4 generations in any organization now. Imagine that wealth of knowledge of 4 generations in one organization. That wealth of knowledge of successes and mistakes from 4 generations is actually super powerful. So as leaders of organizations, if we can just harness, you know, as blended or whatever, then that's the way to go. But again, it all starts with communication kasi nga we all have to understand each other. So as you can see, we are not different. We are still bound by the same principles of family-orientedness, being principled, and then fight, diba? And working hard. So if we just have that, if we use that as a common language, then I think communication can get started. I really believe we should really harness the 4 generations. It's a rare opportunity to have 4 of them in one organization. So, ganun lang. So, that's the secret. Mas takot pa nga kami kaysa sa inyo takot sa amin. Mas marami kasi kayong alam.
Yes, sir. Pero if I may follow up on lang, like, so for example, how do I, one example kasi sir, like at my work, I was invited to a meeting and then long story short, yung manager ko was part of Gen X and he was presenting, blah, blah, blah. And we almost lost the sale kasi the client was like, oh yeah, I'll think about it. And then I intervened. Sabi ko, sir, actually, ganito. And then that day, na-close namin yung deal, diba? So, yay us. Pero after the meeting, actually, napagalitan pa nga ako ng manager ko. Sabi niya parang, you know, what do you know? You're so young, ganito, nangingilam ka, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but I closed the sale, didn't we? We were about to lose the client, diba? So parang, so how do I communicate my ideas, diba? Parang, I understand na natatakot po kayo ma-replace or whatnot, pero how do I share my ideas in such a way na hindi nakakabastos, hindi like how do I talk to the higher ups na older generation po, sir?
I'll give my answer, but I think the other people also part of our generation can answer that. You know, when the person in front of you is insecure, kahit tama yung sagot mo, it will still look negative. It's actually not your fault. Assuming you never said anything disrespectful, you were very factual, and you were honest, and I think that's the most you can do, because if the person in front of you has his own issues, no matter what you do, it will be like that. But on the practical side, I just said that maybe the generation's insecure view, so that at least should be more understanding of them. So the more coming on with more humility will be better when you're facing people of my generation. Kasi the cockier you are, the more we become defensive. Kasi nga insecure kami, or quote unquote insecure. I say that in jest, okay? I'm in a room of Rotarians are all confident. I say that in jest, okay? So di ba? Just the humbler you are, that would help. Humility, kasi hindi na nga namin kaya maano na you'll replace us. So that's
okay.
The whole context. Thank you.
We still have really a lot of questions, but because it's already 3:30, can we have our last question from PP Fred?
I already got an answer. I was asking when the survey was done. Is it PP Fred Pascual or PP Fred Parungaw? Anyway,
okay.
Since I'm on it, no, I was just about to ask when the survey was taken, and there were comments earlier that the current pandemic is creating a situation where there could be blending, there could be, so the situation could be so traumatic that the culture might change in a revolutionary way rather than evolutionary way. So I was about to ask Joel if there is a plan to do a survey maybe in a year after this pandemic. We don't know how long this pandemic will last, to see, we're like going through a world war, We might have another bunch of baby boomers after this pandemic. So I suggest that another survey be done after, the pandemic has done its damage or impact on society. Thank you.
Okay, yes, I agree with that. Okay. Before we proceed now to the hello. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that was our last question. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Joel Santos, for accommodating all those questions. We spent about 45 minutes in answering those questions, and we still have actually a lot more. Now, before we proceed now to the final response, may we ask everyone to turn on their videos to have our photo op.
Okay.
So Ron will be.
1, 2, 3. Hold on, hold on. One last. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So now it's time for the final response and then the adjournment of President Peter.
Oh, nakamute si sir. Sir, nakamute kayo. There.
All right. This is my response. As a freshman in Merrier Seminary, we were constantly taught to be aware of everything that's happening around us and with us or within us. Constant awareness, we were told, is part of enlightenment. Now, in one of our retreats, our formator, Father Jess Sechenova, read to us a story from the book The Song of the Bird by Anthony de Mello, S.J. about Teno, a Zen student who had to spend 10 years of apprenticeship with his master. After his apprenticeship, he acquired the rank of a teacher. One day, he went to see the master Nan-in. It was a rainy day, so Teno wore wooden clogs and carried an umbrella. When he walked in, Nan-in greeted him with these questions. You left your wooden clogs and umbrella on the porch, didn't you? Tell me, did you place your umbrella on the right side of the clogs or on the left? Teno was embarrassed, for he did not know the answer. He realized he lacked awareness. So he became Nan-in's student and labored for another 10 years to acquire constant awareness. Today's topic, Understanding the Four Generations, a research centered on the different Filipino generations as discussed to us by our able speaker, is both timely and compelling during these trying times. Our awareness of our generational differences as well as our commonalities helps us learn how to connect with each other. Learning each generation's idiosyncrasies teaches us to understand more each other, to find ways and means where we can work together, tap into each other's strengths in order to bring our nation back on its feet and move as one in the path of righteousness. To our brilliant speaker, Joel, thank you for sharing us your time and talent. It's a great start for all of us. So thank you very much. And again, good afternoon to everyone. At this juncture, as a sign of our gratitude to our speaker, we'll be sending you a copy of our 50th anniversary, our coffee table book. So you could browse over the achievements of our club.
Wow,
And of course, a bottle of wine so you could drink with your wife, Christina, as you go through our book. So again, thank you very much, Joel, and to everyone who attended. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Salamat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweets. Good.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't able to.
Bye-bye.
All right. This meeting is now adjourned.